after the resounding success of my last video. I've decided that it's time for a sequel! So today we're going to talk about the funny little buttons on your phone that summon food to your door. But what are those delivery apps really? Yes, they're an absolute powerhouse of convenience for those who don't want to leave their homes.
Hey.
Anyway, they're also software companies that end up taking your money in the absolute laziest way possible. To me, none of the food delivery companies that exist now, like Uber Eats, Grubhub, and DoorDash, really deserve the amount that they take in fees. This isn't some kind of judgment or call out or anything. I literally just finished up a dessert from a DoorDash order. So what is it I am trying to say? I think for myself and a lot of other people, the amount we pay in fees has been made worth it based off of the results. Yummy foodie in my belly. But all in all, what DoorDash ends up doing with that money is keeping the lights on in their data centers, while taking advantage of our desire to stay inside. Let's break it down. If any logical person were to invent some smart way to make a delivery app, it genuinely would have the simplest breakdown of tasks to do. Where is the restaurant? Where is the closest courier to said restaurant? What is the distance between the restaurant and the customer? That should be the only 3 questions involved in driver assignment. And from that, you should be able to assess a reasonable cost to charge the customer with some form of automation in the app. Just to make it clear, none of the delivery apps make it what makes up their assignment algorithm public knowledge, but I can at the very least attest to my own experiences driving for these platforms. As I mentioned, I used to drive for both Uber Eats and DoorDash, so I'm very familiar with the little tiers they like to put drivers in. I'm not going to do a full breakdown of each service's system, but I can summarize it fairly succinctly. Make more deliveries and the company offers higher paid orders. Pretty simple stuff. But there's a few minor perk differences between the companies that may or may not be more useful to others, but they're all pretty situational anyway. The existence of this program on its own is enough to determine that there's way more going on their servers than those 3 simple questions I mentioned earlier. When I would do delivery apps, I swear to God I could park in a complex with 10 restaurants nearby for like an hour and watch 10 to 11 drivers pull up, grab orders, and leave while I was still waiting for the money sound to pop up on my phone. So what's going on here? It sounds like somebody was an Uber Eats diamond. Shut up. Just shut up. From a money perspective, that shouldn't matter. I'm sure there's some behavioral science that some overpaid expert spent a mountain of time researching to make sure that drivers stay engaged with the app. But no, that's fucking stupid. Why are we wasting money and intelligence on, in gamer terms, engagement-based matchmaking for fucking food delivery? Stupid. These apps always want to get away with paying as absolutely little as possible, and it truthfully is working out fairly well for them. Whether they'll admit it publicly or not, gig apps thrive on desperation and try to take advantage of that fact constantly. Right now in 2026, it's extremely difficult to not only find a job, but to even have your resume seen by a living human being. That's one of the benefits of gig apps. There's no applications, there's no job interview, no drug testing, no vetting beyond a simple background check, which is perfect for attracting new and desperate people because it's the path of least resistance, and also the fastest way to get your bills paid when you need it. So you get your shiny new delivery account and you're ready to start earning. But what's that? $1 for a delivery that will take you 30 miles round trip to complete? Yeah, no, nice try. The next time you order delivery, have a little look at those fees and leave a comment where you think that money's going. It ain't the driver, I'll tell you that much. I'm no expert, but I do not think it costs DoorDash over $5 to facilitate a single order, and that's on the low end, especially when most of the time they are not actually paying the driver handling the food. One of the things that happened a lot, especially very late at night when I'd be most active, orders would start to go up in value the more people canceled or rejected it. Which, personally, while it makes sense in a bad system, it truly wouldn't make sense in one where they were paying a proper amount to begin with. But there's a little thing that can make that price go up unintentionally. Ah, yes, my favorite. Seriously, the most annoying thing I have ever dealt with doing delivery is theft. Imagine you get an order pop up that's going to put something better than a pack of ramen on the table for dinner, but then you get to the restaurant, potentially several miles out of your way, because as I've said, whatever the stupid algorithm is thinking, it's definitely not making those assignments because you're close to that restaurant. And the minimum wage employee at the counter tells you that someone has already picked up the order. Excuse me, what? How did that happen? Most of the time, it's because these restaurants just put orders on the shelf unattended. But on occasion, it's because these unfortunate souls haven't been educated about this kind of thing. So they just hand over the food to these trashy drivers without ensuring that they can no longer cancel that order. This doesn't mean there are not smart restaurants. A good amount of them have logbooks to prove when things were picked up, along with a name. And the employees at these locations are also very good about making sure when people hit confirm on the app. So shout out to those guys. One thing I desperately wish is that when restaurants enter a contract with these delivery apps, they should have some kind of mandatory training on order shrink. Personally, I feel like it would be on the restaurant to make the food again if it's stolen. Some places will, but most of the spots I would go to would refuse, which is really silly because they let the food be stolen in the first place. If this happened to you with a carry-out order, would they not just give you your food? Would they not just remake it for you? The logic just doesn't track. Also, how the hell do these people get away with it? If there were ever a good part of the algorithm to actually be tuned for, it would be to have restaurants be able to report an order as stolen just as a kind of self-moderation, because the delivery company has to have kept track of who has accepted the order in the first place and their location at the time of cancellation. Let's be real, bad actors exist everywhere, and it seems like there's just not enough investment in preventing the most basic and preventable theft. I really don't think it's possible for anybody to undercut any of these delivery apps anymore because they just have such market dominance. Most restaurants nowadays, at least in my area, are franchised. They probably don't have any negotiating power if a new regional player wanted to deliver. I may be mistaken, but I'm fairly sure that franchised restaurants may not have any choice on whether or not they're even enrolled in delivery apps now because of these brand deals. Although most of them aren't even exclusive. Local restaurants, on the other hand, may have some potential wiggle room. My idea is that not only could you potentially get fair prices for delivery, but improve the driver wages if you were to operate on a regional basis, and only off of those 3 criteria that I mentioned earlier. A little reminder here for you. In my opinion, over time, these delivery apps, much like a lot of tech-centric businesses nowadays, they get enshittified and overcomplicated because of a broken, false sense of improvement. It costs an absolute shit ton for these big companies to run a complicated and personalized system for all 50 states in the US, and every single order has to subsidize their stupidly overcomplicated system that judges whether or not thou art worthy of a delivery that can put food in your mouth. I cannot possibly fathom that it would cost that much to run a system that just judged your proximity to restaurants and priced based off of the distance between the restaurant and the customer. Are there probably more criteria that I could come up with to add that to that very simple system? Almost definitely. There's plenty of things you could probably come up with that would actually be useful. I could what if and what about all day, but truth be told, I'm the unemployed loser making a YouTube video and not the guy who's about to revolutionize delivery with one simple trick. Delivery apps hate him. I promise one of these days I'll start making something a bit more positive. I'm just frankly enjoying talking about things that I feel have a lot of room to improve. And there's something I somewhat enjoy about pulling apart these things I've had to deal with personally and point out how ridiculous things have gotten. That being said, I hope you've enjoyed my little rant. I might have one more somewhat negative video in the pipeline before I talk about something I really like, so stay tuned.